Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Crypto News Podcast. We are buzzing as always, and today my guest is coming in hot 16 hours ahead of me. I'm recording at 5 p.m. He is buzzing at 9 a.m. in beautiful Sydney, Australia. Today we have Derek Lau, the VP of Immutable Game Studio. Derek brings a unique blend of experience in startups and strategy into the world of Web3 and blockchain gaming. He has successfully led GOG from the ground up into a community of 400,000 gamers. Absolute craziness, and 20 million revenue through NFT sales and a token valued at 300 million. Ex-management consultant from Oliver Wyman, where he was responsible for developing and implementing strategy projects for the C-suite of Australia's biggest companies. He was also the founder of Parkways, a peer-to-peer parking startup where he developed strong entrepreneurial spirit and hustle. And when he's not working, he's like the rest of us, gaming or refreshing crypto Twitter. Derek, pumped to have you on, man. How you doing?
Yes. Thank you. Thank you for the intro. Excited to be here, Matt.
Pumped to have you on, man. Reading that intro, so curious about your parking startup. That's so cool. I want to hear more about it. Tell me about it.
Yeah. So kind of the problem we're trying to solve was that there are certain places in Sydney where it's super hard to find parking. It's super crowded. But at the same time, there were all these houses and apartments with empty driveways and empty parking spots. And so we thought, hey, how can we connect the two together? So we kind of very scrappily just built a startup to connect the two. And yeah, it was a lot of fun, learned a lot, made some money, but ultimately the market is very small. You can imagine the population of Australia is not very big. And in some ways, the parking market in Australia is also dominated by two main companies. So it's quite hard to kind of break that and do a lot of partnerships there, which is actually the way that these kinds of startups get successfully in other countries, through partnerships. So yeah, it was a good experience and definitely learned a lot there about kind of just building stuff and getting scrappy.
That is totally a worldwide use case though. Like I even think of one friend in particular, shout out my buddy Max, who lives in the beaches in Toronto, and every year, twice a year, there's a fireworks show. And people would come down 5 hours before and all street parking would be filled. He'd stand outside his house with a sign being like $50 to park. And when someone's desperate, they're just going to do that. They park in his driveway. Like it's such a no-brainer for every big event as well.
Yeah, if only there was an app for that.
Exactly. I love that. Crazy. Now, a couple big things. First and foremost, GOG, Guild of Guardians, you guys just won the best Web3 Mobile Game of the Year award at, I want to say, the first ever Web3 award show. Congrats on that. Huge shout out to you and the team.
Thank you. Yeah, very, very glad to have kind of been recognized as one of the big mobile games in the space. And very, very happy to kind of receive people's support in that process.
We will definitely get into GOG, but before we do, some more big news that came out was the Immutable Passport. Immutable is absolutely dominating the Web3 space at the moment. You guys are building just a myriad of tech that is applicable to almost every area and really simplifying things, making use cases infinitely easier for consumers, both crypto natives and non-crypto natives, to come in and, dance and romance in this space. And some huge news came out about Immutable Passport, and I'd love to know more about this and what exactly it is all about.
So yeah, Immutable Passport, super exciting. The team's been working very hard on it for a while, and what it is it's designed to be kind of a one-stop shop for making it very easy for people to use crypto. Right now, crypto is confusing. It's very confusing for someone who doesn't know anything to figure out what a wallet is, create a seed phrase, store it, access it, sign transactions. And for people who don't want to go through that, but still want to own their stuff, that's what Passport's for. So it's designed to be something that different developers can use, whether it's Guild of Guardians or another game, and to really provide a good experience to their users while still being secure and while still allowing people to have digital ownership.
So it really is like a passport, like exactly how it sounds and says. It just gives you access to everything in the most simplistic way.
Exactly. It's a non-custodial wallet.
Right. Non-custodial wallet. So it's anyone can just come in, jump in and have access to the whole sort of suite of Web3 games and other applications within the ecosystem.
Yeah.
That's huge. And this must have taken tons of work, boots on the ground, long hours for this to pop off.
Yeah, I know the teams are working super hard on it, and they were very, very happy to get the news out.
I love that. Web3 gaming, you had an incredible thread. Now, we are recording early Feb. This episode will also air early Feb, but you had an absolutely incredible thread that sort of blew up on Twitter. And it was really just a summarization of what happened in Web3 gaming in 2022. I can pull it up and read some stuff off if you'd like, but if you could summarize that, that'd be great because it was just absolutely world-class.
Oh man, it was a long one. So feel free to dive into anything in particular. But yeah, I think the thread was really summarizing what we saw in last year, right? And some of the key things that we saw last year was kind of the funding and marketing conditions and how that impacted the space. We saw a lot of people enter into the space, particularly in the first half of the year, not just participants, but also developers and builders. And a lot of companies have started up and raised money and are now working very hard to build. We also saw kind of trends in terms of what people think a successful Web3 game will look like. The narrative very much shifted from the idea of earning and financial access through games to fun, right? And you could argue that it's overcorrected and there's less for focus of innovation. Yeah, and then the thread also kind of goes into some predictions for next year. You know, one of the predictions I think is that there's going to be a big increasing shift away from tokenomics and economies, which is what we've seen so far, towards communities and growth. And I think this is a gap in the market, which we'll start seeing filled by different individuals and companies and so on. And we could go on and talk about different topics there as well.
Oh yeah, 100%. There's too much gold in here to not. One of the points I loved was the policy and regulation part of the thread, where you talked about how we will most likely see more in-app peer-to-peer trading on Apple, and Apple obviously dominates the apps. Well, they own the App Store, but they dominate apps, mobile applications, and they have the killer 30% fee. So you're a believer that crypto companies and Web3 games will just have to soak that 30%, and that will just sort of be a tax that will have to be baked into the balance sheet and baked into the tokenomics and the ecosystem in order to get more people to download the app?
Yeah, effectively. I believe that right now, based off the Apple guidelines as they've defined it, they're happy with NFTs. They just want to get their cut. And so there's no reason why we can't start introducing NFTs directly in the app, including trading, except Apple will obviously take their 30% cut. I believe some users who don't know any better may prefer the convenience, right? But there's always the option, once people get on board and then learn about kind of NFTs and digital assets, that they'll also be able to not trade in the app, but then choose to trade on the desktop or trade on the website as well and avoid the 30%. So I believe there'll be both options, right, for people. And that's kind of the path that Apple wants to go down right now as well. Whether that's ideal is a different question, but I think that's the path that they seem to be going down.
It's such a crazy tax, and like not a lot of people know about that like all your apps that we love and use every single day, with the exception of a few, like every time you make an in-app purchase, you're, with your nice little double click of the thumb, I guess right thumb, double click of the right thumb, that's 30 ticks gone. Like it's pretty bananas how they've still gotten away with this, and it's how many years later. Like I know Epic Games has had a huge battle with them. A bunch of massive companies, Amazon for one, has the workaround where they bring you back to like Safari, so you make the purchase on Safari. But do you think this is ever going to go, or is the 30 tick tax just here to stay?
There's a lot of pressure, but everyone is not Apple, right? To make it go away, and I think we'll continue to see that. It's difficult to say kind of when or at what point their monopoly needs to reach for this to be a real issue and for regulators to step in. Even there's a lot of conversations. So I think long term it's going to change. In the short term, I'm no expert, but I think it's going to. We should expect it to be the same for now. We shouldn't pray that it's going to change drastically, and we shouldn't plan for that.
Right. Totally makes sense. Another great point you brought up was the language. Right now, NFTs, as a acronym word, whatever you want to call it. So much FUD, so much bad blood. A lot of people lost infinitely more money than they did making money. I totally get it. Heck, even on the inside, the word NFT is a little wishy-washy, and on the outside, it's a completely different story. You're a believer that this language will change and it will be a lot more digital collectible based. Perhaps that's the best word. Any other good words in the mix? Do you really think digital collectible can stay around? Like, or do you think we need something buzzy to get this to go mainstream?
Yeah, I don't know for sure what word we will land on, but it's interesting. Different surveys have been done just to see how people respond to these words, whether it's digital asset, digital collectible, NFT, blockchain token or whatever. And NFT has by far the worst reception, even though they're all the same thing. And so I definitely feel like for now, digital collectibles seems to be on the rise, and you can see examples of this in practice, such as Reddit introducing their avatars, where they had a very non-NFT branding to it, and it was well received. And I'm assuming many people don't realize that it is an NFT, right? Otherwise, they may be against it, the term. So I think it will stray more and more into the idea of it's just another digital thing, right? And it becomes normalized.
100%. Another great point you brought up, Derek, was the interoperability aspect. And heck, even in 2021, that was that very well could have been the word of the year in 2021. Everyone was talking about interoperability and how for the metaverse and NFTs and crypto to be fully functional and to sort of go mainstream, you're going to need to be able to take game character X into metaverse Y and while using token Z, so on and so forth. Obviously, that's very complex, especially when tons of different, use cases and in-game assets are being built on different chains and different protocols. Are we anywhere close, or is it still just really sort of, you can only do that if it's in the same game studio?
I think we're quite far away. I think the idea comes up quite a lot just because it's one of the first benefits that people think about when you think about NFTs. And so people think about, interoperability, that's one of the key benefits. And that's what they work on, or that's what they believe will take off. The main problem is around the incentives. There needs to be a lot of collaboration between different projects, different layers of the technology in order for interoperability to actually work. And every business is different. And so aligning those incentives is very, very difficult. I think blockchain as a tool can potentially be really good at aligning incentives. But for now, it's not, I think, happening quickly enough for us to see interoperability come soon. I think what we will see, though, is, a single entity who has their own incentives aligned can start exploring interoperability. They can start adding other game characters to their own world. They can have their own ecosystem of games which share a token or which share NFTs, and you can transfer characters around. I think that's what we'll see as the first flavor of interoperability within the gaming space.
And realistically, it's between Immutable and Animoca, most likely. It's sort of the two that could make it happen.
It could be, but there could be other studios who could be very focused on it as well. Like, I think, we're very excited by interoperability, but it's also not necessarily our top priority at the same time, right? And so there could be other studios where they make it the top priority and they just laser focus on it. I think that does happen to some extent, and we could see them kind of come out with some interesting experiments and things like that.
You kept bringing up incentives, and you and I are definitely in the same yacht here. The financial incentives was and were the thing that got people into NFTs as a whole. Everyone was like, play to earn. I can play a game and make money. We saw it with Axie. It was truly transformative. I think the term play to earn is gone. I think play to have fun and perhaps earn is here to stay. That would honestly be an absolute treat. And I think a lot of people would jump on that train and that bandwagon. But what other incentives can we, bring to the arena besides the cliche fun, which is the reason why you play a game, right? To have fun, to shoot the shit with your friends, to feel a part of a community, to pass time, which pretty much is all under the bucket of fun and happiness. And then you have the wealth factor, health, wealth, and happiness. You have the wealth factor, which would be making money. Health, I don't really know how you could throw health in there unless it's something like Steppen, right? Where it's move to earn. But what other incentives can game developers and studios bake into their games to help more people join the parade?
The way I think about it is to think about all the different actors in the game's ecosystem. So you have players who play the game, and within that, group, you have different types of players that are motivated by different things. Some are really motivated by gameplay, some really want to show off, some want other things, right? But then you also have all these groups outside of the game as well. So the developer is one group. You have third-party creators, you have content creators, streamers. You have these esport organizations, for example, or you have other games. And so the question, I think, is how do you kind of align incentives by giving people these digital assets that have value or could have value, right? They might not, but they could, in a way so that the more value these different actors add to the game or the ecosystem, the more value they're getting in return.
Well
and
said.
they kind of build this flywheel, right? And so I think there's a lot of things you could do on the growth side with aligning incentives with different people in the community, different creators, etc. And there's also, a big question of how do you properly give back to your players, especially those who aren't actually necessarily motivated just by money, but those who just engage a lot and are adding value to the game and are, talking a lot in Discord, etc. So I think this incentive alignment is going to be a continual challenge and balance to get right, but it's definitely very powerful when you do.
And that is like that's the first domino. Like I feel like once the incentives are aligned, just the train will leave the station. It's like anything else in life. Derek, we got to take a quick break. Give a huge shout out to our sponsor of the show, PrimeXBT. And when we get back, we are going to buzz on the one and only Guild of Guardians. But before then, huge shout out to PrimeXBT. They've been friends of Crypto News for a hot minute. We love them. Incredible people, great team, and great and amazing products. They have a robust trading system for both beginners and professional traders. It doesn't matter if you're a rookie or a vet, you can easily design and customize your layouts and widgets to best fit your trading style. PrimeXBT is also running an exclusive promotion for listeners of the pod. You get 50% of your deposit credited to your trading account. The promo code is CryptoNews50. That's CryptoNews50, all one word, CryptoNews50, all one word, to receive 50% of your deposit credited to your trading account. And now back to the show with Derek. Derek, Guild of Guardians. You put blood, sweat, tears, and some more blood, sweat, and tears into that game. You and the team built an incredible Ubisoft-supported, by the way, mobile squad-based action RPG game published by the one and only Immutable Games Studio. It's absolutely blown up. Just like I said, it won Mobile Game of the Year, and you have also inked some crazy esports collabs, which I feel like is another domino that needs to fall in order for Web3 gaming to really hit mass adoption. I'd like to begin with the conception and start of Guild of Guardians. Like, how difficult is it to build a mobile game and to build one that is, profitable and where people play it? Like, how much goes into it behind the scenes?
Yeah, so we are currently still building Guild of Guardians, and there's a lot of work that goes into it. Everything we need to do to make a great mobile game is what we're doing for Guild of Guardians, plus more, because we're also trying to figure out how to add blockchain and Web3 to make the game even better for players. And so it's a very cross-functional effort. I think it's like half art, half science, and so it takes a lot of iteration, a lot of coordination to get right. It's something that we see improve over time, which is very good to see as well.
And walk me through a bit, a couple of the numbers. Like, you guys have hit some pretty impressive numbers. It's not easy doing that. And also walk me through a couple of hoops that you had to jump through, like battling the App Store, battling Google Play. Like, if someone wanted to build a game, a Web3 based mobile game, like, what are some of the roadblocks that you'd be like, hey, just a friendly heads up, this is the battle you're gonna have to go through?
So we currently have over a million players now who are pre-registered for the game on our mailing list and excited to play the game when the game comes out. That's a pretty big milestone for us because our goal is to reach millions of players. We're not here to just build a niche game that's played by a few people who like Web3 and blockchain. We're here to try to push the industry forward and do something that no one else has done before. So that's a pretty big milestone for us. And one of the big challenges that we faced is trying to build a community before the game has come out, right? This is something that is more unique to Web3 as well, where you try to involve the community more and you're more open earlier on, rather than just going live and, hey, here's a game you can all play. And so this is a challenge for us that we've certainly learned a lot and iterated on over time. We've also done a bunch of NFT sales as well, right? And this has been super useful to help supplement the funds that we have internally in order to make sure that we can make the game as good as possible. So I think around $20 million of NFTs have been sold. We've also launched a token where the price will fluctuate depending on the market conditions. And obviously the market isn't great right now, but we're really excited by this because it allows us to try to align incentives with different people in the ecosystem. And it's a really powerful tool to help bootstrap the network so that the game is as successful as possible. And then some of the kind of more invisible progress and stats is just in terms of how we've built out the team internally, with some really good and experienced people in games development and in Web3 and in different, specializations in order to try to holistically deliver on these pretty lofty goals.
100%. You also mentioned the token. Now, staking is such a big part of incentivizing players to stay in the game economy, right? And I know that you guys recently implemented staking rewards. Walk me through that process. What's it been like? And, I guess really just why is it such a need? Why is it such a pain point for the gamers themselves?
Staking is a hot topic because it helps people in the short term, but at the cost of giving out tokens, which means in the long term, you have less tokens to give out to other people, right? And so there's always this trade-off and balance that we're trying to find with staking. The reason we have it is because we do want to give back to people who hold the token and support in us and believe in the project. We believe that is valuable, particularly kind of before the game comes out. As I mentioned, we do try to find that balance there. And some of the challenges, in addition to finding the balance, is also the legal and reg side. We want to be very safe when it comes to regulations. And so we have a very high bar here that unfortunately makes us go a bit slower, but in the long run, hopefully it makes us a lot safer as well when it comes to regulators taking a look at what all of the different game projects are doing in Web3.
And Derek, we can't keep going on this pod without mentioning the Esports Partnerships. Absolutely huge. That I feel like that's just such a no-brainer. Now I know there's still obviously FUD and there's some bad blood when it comes to Web3 gaming and esports, but I feel like this is just so paramount to success, so paramount to mainstream Web3 gaming being a thing, right? These Web2 esports teams are looked at by a lot of kids and men and women for that matter, and girls as literal gods. Like they're, you know what I mean? Like 25, 30 years ago, you ask a kid and they actually have this study every single year in school. It's like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And it's, I want to be an astronaut. I want to be a doctor. I want to be a firefighter, a lawyer, a banker, or a professional athlete, a dancer, whatever. Now it's, I want to be a YouTuber. I want to be an influencer. I want to be a gamer. You know what I mean? So it's like these people have so much clout. They are idolized. They are legitimate gods. To have a partnership with one of the most popular esports organizations is massive. How did you guys get them on board? What's cooking up in the future? Tell me more about that.
Yeah, I love that quote. Our goal is we want to reach millions of players. We want to really push the industry forward. And that's really what's behind this partnership, which we believe isn't only significant in Web3, but really is significant even if you ignore blockchain altogether. It's actually very rare for these esport organizations to work so closely with any game, right, let alone a Web3 game. And the reason we were excited by this and what we're trying to get out of this partnership is to really align incentives with these esport teams. Like, how can we create a win-win scenario where, they're helping us reach their audience, helping us improve the game, they're helping engage, make the game better and really drive a lot of attention, right? Which is very much needed in the space in order to convert the minds around what Web3 gaming is or isn't. And how can we make it so that the more success that they bring us, also the more success we give back to them and their fans, right? In terms of engagement, in terms of real ownership, in terms of other things. So that's really at the heart of this partnership, which is how can we have kind of a long-term aligned partnership and we're excited to have the trust of these teams as well, who very often are very sensitive to their brand and giving away their brand to, their brand is everything. So it's quite a process in order to get 8 teams on board in the
100%.
same partnership to all give their brand and embed into the world of Guild of Guardians. And so that's very exciting.
It's crazy how much money like the pros make, eh? Like these guys literally make cake. Imagine making cake to play games.
Yeah, and like you mentioned earlier, the kids grow up on this, right? And it's only going to increase. I don't see how it decreases from here. It's only going to increase. And with the advent of Web3 and NFTs, potentially much more people could make a living out of it, right?
Exactly.
It maybe potentially doesn't just become reserved for the top 0.01%, but it opens it up to more people.
Almost turn it into a gig economy kind of thing, like an Uber or an Airbnb, where anyone who maybe not Airbnb, but anyone who wants to realistically could make $1 a year with Uber. I guess literally anyone now, because you can just get a bicycle and do Uber Eats, right? So it's like
Exactly.
that'd be pretty cool.
Exactly.
Pretty cool. Derek, what a treat, man. I've had a blast chatting with you. I know we're getting a little tight for time. We have a segment on the show called the Hot Take Factory, where we jump in, we put on our shit kicking boots, and we let a couple hot takes fly. It doesn't have to be Web3 related. It can be anything in life, health, wealth, happiness, sports, politics, gaming, you name it. Give me a couple Derek hot takes where only you believe in it and most other people do not.
Oh, okay. So one that jumps to mind is just around why we need NFTs in games. My take is that I think trading is not enough, right? I think just purely owning something is not enough of a difference to make people want to adopt Web3. So it's not enough to just have it play a fun game and then own some stuff. I think we need to do something more innovative that actually adds more value to the player experience in order to really get people over.
So literal, not just digital collectibles, but like in-game assets that are going to be traded all the time.
Yeah, it needs to be designed in such a way that it's not just a 20% improvement, but it's a 10x improvement.
Gotcha.
And I think that's what we want to achieve in the industry.
I love that. Derek, thanks a lot, man. Had an absolute blast chatting with you. Can't wait to have you on for round 2. You and the team at Immutable are literally tearing up the space in the best of ways possible. And quite frankly, we need more teams and people like you, but we need more Immutables in Web3. Heck, the space, our industry would be a hell of a lot better if we did. So thanks for coming on.
I appreciate it.
Before we let you go, can you please let our listeners know where they can find you, Immutable, and GOG online and on socials?
You can find me on Twitter, which is xDerekLau. And similarly, Guild of Guardians and Immutable are also on Twitter, or you can go to guildofguardians.com or immutable.com.
And as always, I will include everything in the show notes. Derek, thanks so much for coming on, man. Wishing you all the best, and we will keep in touch, and we'll have you on again soon.
Thanks. Great to chat, Matt. Thanks for having me.
Folks, what an episode with Derek Lau. He and the team at Immutable are building. They are moving and grooving in the Web3 gaming space. And of course, I will include all the show notes about Immutable Passport and Guild of Guardians. We have so much to learn from the team at Immutable. Super pumped to have Derek on. Really hope you guys enjoyed this episode. To the team, love you guys. Thank you so much for everything. Eustace, you are the best. Thank you for everything you do. And to the listeners, love you guys more than you know. Keep on growing those bags and keep on staying healthy, wealthy, and happy. Bye for now, and we'll talk soon.